No, I didn't. I was, yeah. I was out in the parking lot looking at someone's 41 Pontiac. Whose is that? Ooh, I like. Yeah, I'm pointing out the window at Jan. I says, look! And she goes, what? What am I looking at?
It's true.
Why would she wonder what she's looking at when I'm pointing?
Honey, I always wonder.
I know. All right, so the format's completely different today. We're both up here. Scary thought.
We just want to share with
Scary
you. Do I need another microphone?
Yes?
Hand me the hand. Thank you.
Do I need to adjust it?
I don't know. Do you need to adjust it? Is that good?
Okay.
That's good.
That's good.
I roll.
Do I need my notes?
Probably. We are going to kind of, obviously we're going to talk a little bit about the church, where it came from, why we do it, but also we're going to give you...
Why we do it? Why do we do this?
Well, we still haven't figured that one out yet. We actually haven't figured that one out yet. But also we're going to tell you a little bit about us, not a whole lot, but certainly little tidbits to try to explain maybe how we got here, and again, maybe why we do it.
We'll start with that.
Okay. Well, I was born in Alaska.
Oh, don't go that far back.
But I grew up,
have
childhood in Seattle, grew up in California, and been all around the coast, every place, and
We don't care.
you know? Oh,
I don't care.
okay. But something that, might help you understand a little bit about me is when I graduated high school, it's like, okay, what the heck am I going to do? Okay, well, I'm going to go to college. I bought a brand new home when I was 18, bought a brand new car, worked full-time, went to school full-time, went in the Air Force, came out, worked full-time, and at the same time taking up to 60 units a semester in 3 different colleges. Yeah, I know.
He has
It can be done.
ADD, ADHD.
Yeah. And I had my whole life planned out. I was going to retire at 50, and I knew how much money I was going to have. And, I started working and actually doing pretty good, and then life got in the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your turn.
Life getting in the way. I don't think life got in the way until just before we met for him. For me, I grew up in a very conservative Christian church, and I loved it. I can remember the first time I ever went to Bible class. My grandson, when he was little, used to call it Bible class. But Bible class, I loved it. I loved the Bible. I've loved everything about it, always have. It just fits for me. I just find great peace in it and strength from it. Phil, on the other hand.
Well, but at that time, you were well read in the Bible for kind of one reason.
The wrong reason. The church I grew up in really liked their membership to know what the Bible said, especially so that you could prove other religions wrong. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the background. So I learned a lot. I knew a lot, but I didn't know it because it was, I had this deep spirituality, but the religious education that I got was focused more on how to disprove someone else's faith, which I find really appalling and sad at the same time at this point in my life. But that's how I grew up, and that's what it was supposed to be like. So when Phil and I met...
I'm a recovering Catholic.
There's probably several of you out there.
Mm-hmm. Parochial school, the whole 9 yards. Rulers across the finger, boxing ears, paddling of the butt. I was a good kid.
Didn't matter. But I think, interestingly enough, for Phil, is that his church would say things and he would go, that's not true. And I just bought everything hook, line, and sinker. So,
I was a little kid did that.
Yeah, and me, everything, whatever was right. So when we got together, neither one of us were attending any church. I had kind of fallen out of love with church. Still loved God, but I'd fallen out of love with church. Going to church hurt. It wasn't a kind thing. It wasn't a loving thing. It wasn't an encouraging thing. And I just couldn't do it anymore. So Phil and I, we started attending a little church near where we lived in Houston, just because. And it was really sweet. The minister was a little more dynamic and enthusiastic.
From South Africa.
Had a great accent, so that was kind of fun. And the silly thing is, the craziest thing is that we couldn't get the time of the church starting right. So I think it started at 10, and we always rolled in at 10:20 thinking it started at 10:30. We never could get it right in our head, so we always missed the first part of the church. So maybe there was a God thing about that, I don't know. But then we moved from Houston. That was a whole other story in and of itself.
And the only reason we're telling you this part is so that you understand that a lot of the things we talk about, we understand because we were there. And, you know, again, kind of life getting in the way, between a business getting embezzled and son at 3 hospitals that insurance didn't pay for.
We were
tapped
destitute.
out.
We were beyond destitute. We were so far in the hole there was no daylight left. So we don't practice what we preach. We preach what we practice. So
all of that time.
All that to say.
Well, and at that time when we were at our lowest, we never gave up on anything. We never had a bad attitude, hopefully. But we did decide, you know what? There's probably some other things out there that we could probably do better. So we started spending money on self-improvement classes. And I mean,
when we didn't have the money to
not
do
really,
that with.
not
but
really.
We had to do something. We knew that we couldn't. We didn't have some piece of information because it wasn't working. What we were doing wasn't working for us. So we needed to know something different. And at the same time, we were taking self-help classes when our son was in rehab. So there were things that we learned through his rehab that we had our own counseling along with that. So there were things that we learned to improve ourselves.
So we decided to sell the businesses. She had an office in Florida. I had one and 2 of them in Texas.
Well, I don't know that we could sell them. I think it was
No,
more
I meant
like
sell the house.
we abandoned the
We abandoned
losses.
the businesses. Yeah.
And we sold the house for just what we owed on it. We walked away from the house. That was hard. We lived with my parents. Oh, have you ever had to live with your parents?
But that was unintentional because we actually came back up here and we said, you know what, we'll just kind of stop by and we'll go back either to Seattle, Portland, or Spokane. And April 1991.
You think he'd remember that, huh?
I remember. We came back and we decided to go back over to Seattle and kind of drive around for a couple days and figure out what we might want to do because that's where I grew up, so I kind of wanted to go back there. So here we are, Sunday afternoon in April 1991, and the 205 is stopped. And it was stopped for the next 2 hours. And we most recently came from Houston, and I remember just turning to Jan and says, you know, hon, I don't want to do this anymore. I can't do this kind of traffic in this anymore. So we came back here and said, well, got to figure something out.
And we did. We took jobs we didn't like. I would remember crying to and from work every day. Didn't care for the job that I got. But it put food on the table, you know, put money in the pocket so that we could continue what we needed to do. Got a job, got a better job.
And all that to say, you know, we discovered along the way, because we had the businesses and we worked for other people, and we had some businesses and worked for other people, and we both discovered that, you know what, we really don't like working for other people. I mean, it just doesn't work for us.
Let me say it differently.
Okay.
Let me say it differently. Let me say it this way. We realized that working in a toxic work environment is not worth it.
Yeah.
That if we have to work in a toxic work environment, we've got to find a different choice for ourselves. Because when you walk away from work and the work is still attached to you, it's not living. It's just not living. So we realized that we had to find a way to support ourselves and in a positive environment. You know, we went through some really tough stuff, and we had that positive attitude and that positive life force that we...
No one ever knew
No, nobody had
that
a
we
clue.
had nothing.
They used to think we were like really wealthy because we didn't act poor. But we didn't have anything. I remember the first day on the better job that I got, they wanted all of us girls to go to lunch. I couldn't go. I had no money in my wallet.
But she didn't tell them that. Didn't say that, sorry, I can't afford it, or I'm broke, or...
I just said, oh, I've made other commitments. I'm sorry. I've made a commitment to go home and eat the only food we had, which was in the fridge, until payday rolled around. So, you know, we understand what being without is all about, because we've been there. We've really been there. And I think the really cool thing about all of that is that we had really difficult situations, but we didn't lose that inner spark.
Never.
And you know, you guys, I know the crap that you're going through. It's tough. Some of you have more courage than Phil and I could have together, because some of the stuff you're going through is harder than we've ever experienced. And you've got the courage, and you've got that spark, and you're still hanging in there, and you're still doing the deal. And you haven't lost that. And we just want to commend you for that and recognize for you that it's a choice to keep moving when you don't feel like you can. And I think that you've done that.
And
you're doing that.
And as far as a career, Janice said, you know, what is it I like to do? And
so, well, I have health issues that, you know, doing a regular 9 to 5 I can do, but then that means I sleep all evening and sleep all weekend. And that's not really living, again. So it's all about quality of life. What kind of life do you want to have? So I tried to figure out what I could do. Actually, I have a funny story to tell you. I was working this job, 9 to 5, 8 to 5, and I was curling my hair one day, and I said, I would give my right arm to not have to ever do this job again. Be careful what you say. Be careful. Because I developed tendinitis in my elbow, my right elbow, instantly. It was so bad, couldn't lift a fork. And I'm not left-handed, and try to feed yourself left-handed is not fun. So, you know, I was really awkward. Food everywhere. It was sad. But
I couldn't help her. I was laughing too hard. Sorry, that was the other thing.
So then
Not really.
the business I was working for had kind of a need to do a layoff. And I gladly took it. So the prayer was answered, and my elbow did eventually heal. But just be careful what you put out there, because they're listening.
And how did you decide what to do for a living?
Well, I knew how to do some desktop publishing. Couldn't do it now because, you know, the technology has gone another direction. But I did desktop publishing and the psychic stuff. I did psychic readings at the same time. And I thought, because I had been doing them, but I had been doing them for free. I thought, well, you know, if you feed your gift will feed you. So why not? So I started charging for those. And did that for almost 2 years, was it?
Yeah.
I think it was about 2 years. Until my client base for the psychic stuff was stronger than, or had overcame the need for me to do the desktop publishing anymore. But I sat one day and I said, well, what do I like? What do I enjoy? What brings me happiness? Where do I feel fulfilled? And that was making pretty things and helping people find their own truth. That's what I really got a kick out of. So when I put energy in that, then that developed from there.
Mm-hmm. And for me, I was in the same type of a thing. It's like I just really couldn't see myself working for other people. Tried that, and as soon as they would ask me to do something that wasn't in a client's best interest, but was certainly in the company's best interest, I couldn't do it anymore. Just couldn't do it. So thought about it for a while, liked insurance, first started in '71, got back into it as a stockbroker, liked portions of that in Houston. But what I do, nobody else in the Tri-Cities that I know of does. Not only with the insurance, with the health insurance and Medicare and all the other things I do. There are certainly people that do things like that, but they work for somebody else. I'm an independent contractor, if you will. I don't work for anybody. But what's wonderful, well, except for me, I work for myself. Terrible boss. Don't ever, yeah. But, you know, that's why we've been able to start the church, too, is because we're both self-employed, and so it gives us
So I
the
need
freedom.
to say one thing about that.
Yeah?
When Phil was looking to see what he could do, he had a job, and they expected more of him and cut his pay. He was in sales. I don't know if you've ever experienced that before or not. That's not fun. And then he was expected to sell the more expensive piece of equipment, even though wasn't in the best interest of his clients. Anyway, so he was like, so for him, it was, what irritates me the most? What do I get the most mad about? What fires me up the most? And what fired him up the most was when people make stupid decisions. So his whole thing, and people come to him because he can give them the information and they can still make a stupid decision, but it'll be informed. And whatever decision they make, it's not stupid, it's because that's what's right for them. But people only make stupid decisions if they just don't have the information. So if he has information and he can share it, then that's what he's about. And that's where he found his calling, so to speak. And
Yeah.
he loves it.
Yeah.
He loves it. Well, we're way past 50. He hasn't retired. And we don't have to. When you do what you love every day, then you don't have to retire. And you just keep working.
In fact, I
Because
hardly
it's not
remember
work.
50.
Yeah, I don't even remember 50.
So, enough
We have
about
a couple
us.
of- we have a couple of stories to tell you. Tell
Oh, do we?
that. Yeah.
Oh.
Do you want to name names on that one?
Oh, sure, sure. So we'll talk a little bit about enough about us. But the church itself, you know, we'll get into kind of how that started. But I remember one of my best stories when people ask me about the church and say, well, what is it you do different? I mean, we don't understand, especially when pastors ask me. And I says, well, we had a lady in our church. Any of you ever remember Elizabeth? She left and went to Portland. Wonderful gal. At our old building, we've been in this building for 12, 13 years, something like that. At the old building, she stood up in the middle of services and said, I'm a practicing witch and I cast spells. And the Bible is made up, a made-up book to oppress and control women. And I tell that story to other people, and they go, and they look at me, and I says, what would you have done if someone had done that in your church? And he says, well, we would have gotten her out as soon as possible. And I says, yeah, I know. You know what we did? We all laughed. We didn't laugh at her. Everyone laughed with her, because we all understood what she was saying and why she was probably saying it. And she just looked at us and
we just said, welcome, glad you're
yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah.
Not an issue. Have fun.
Yeah. And it took us 5 years and baptized her.
And she sang Amazing Grace.
Yes, she
At
did.
her baptism and
Yes,
loved
she
it.
did.
But we don't care what faith you have, because we don't
We
care.
don't. Not at all.
We care that you believe, not what you believe. Because your belief system is your business, not mine. I can just share what I have done, what works for me, and then whatever works for you is great.
Yep.
It's great.
And
I have to tell Lori Miller's story. Can I tell your story, Lori? Well, I'm going to tell her anyway. Lori sat in church for 4 weeks, arms crossed. Well, I got to wait and see what they're going to tell me, what I have to believe to see if I can stay or not. After about 4 weeks, she says, these people aren't going to tell me what to believe. Oh, I guess I can stay.
True. When we went to another church, we had gone there for a few years. Loved the church. It's still around. Loved volunteering. Loved doing everything. We, did the best we could about tithing, the best we could, and
We did better
we did good. And then we decided, we're going to get even more involved. So we're going to be part of their lay pastors program. So, and we've been going to church every Sunday. So at the lay pastors meeting, the first one, there's probably, 30, 40, there's a lot of people. It's a big church. And they told us what they expected of us. And what they expected of us were all of the things that we've been doing because we wanted to. And they wanted to know how much money we were going to give for the next year, and it had to be in writing. And they expected that we would do that or more. So we left the meeting. And next
We didn't
Sunday,
talk about it.
We didn't say a word. We left the meeting, went home, got up next Sunday after sleeping in, and we didn't go to church.
Didn't talk about it. We talk about everything.
And the next Sunday, same thing happened. This went on for
3 months.
a couple, 3 months, long time. We finally said, okay, why aren't we going to church? Well, we both had the same problem. The same problem. Everything we wanted to do because we wanted to and felt good about doing it was required. And it's like, this is ridiculous. So,
Took the fun right out. Duty stole the fun.
yep. So for whatever reason, we had no reason to do it, but we went through a process and, became ordained. Still didn't know what we wanted to do with that.
And the only reason we did that was because I wanted to have that ordination for
the business.
for my business, for doing the psychic stuff. And Phil thought, when we were doing the ordination process, all of a sudden it was like, I don't know why, but I have to do this too. I have to do it. It's like, okay, come on. So we did that.
And sometime after that, don't remember how
Year and a
long, was it? Oh, year and a half later, we says, well, why don't we start a church? What? What are you talking about? So I said, well, okay.
Can't find what we want. So we visited other churches. Couldn't
Yeah.
find anything we wanted. It was all either too
Christian.
you're evil, sinful, horrible beings, and you better be grateful God loves you. Or it was way the other side of
That
all
too.
you have to do is think, and it's all about mental activity. Neither one of those worked for us.
Neither
Where's the
one, neither
heart of
side.
it?
Neither side worked.
Right.
So we said, there's got to be people that kind of sort of have this central belief, yeah, we're Christian, but, we don't care if anybody else is. And, but we have this spiritual side of us too. Why can't you combine them both? Everybody says you can't. We says, well, why not?
Why not?
Yeah, why can't you combine them both? Why can't you have people in the audience that are Hindu, Buddhist, Jewish, Catholic, Protestant, you name it. Everybody out there, Wiccan,
Native American.
they're all sitting here. And on any given Sunday, they're all sitting here.
So when we decided to start this, Phil mentioned it to a few of his colleagues, business colleagues, and they said, "Oh, you can't do that." Well, first of all, never tell Phil you can't do that. That's the first mistake. But they said you can't do that. You can't get people of different faiths in the same room at the same time because they'll kill each other. People get all incensed about their faith, and they will just eat each other up. You can't do it.
So, but what if you only talk about the big T's, the big truths? Honor each other. Love your higher power, God, whatever you want to call it, the way you want to do it. What if we can't just exchange some ideas? Doesn't mean you have to think the way we do. Whenever we talk about things up here, we don't expect you to think or do or anything like we do.
Half
We
the
say,
time we
"Hey."
expect to just mess your mind up so you have to think.
Sometimes is true. Just think.
But think with your intelligence and think with your heart. Think with your spirit. See how it feels for you. Find your path. Don't walk my path. It's my damn path. Get off my path. Walk your own path. Sorry, got a little incensed about
No,
that.
I wouldn't imagine that. No, haven't seen that before.
So talk about the church cup.
Oh, okay. When we first started the church, we also thought that membership was something that kind of annoyed us. When you go to other churches and you have to become a member. And
You got to go through the rigmarole and
Oh.
promise and vow
And by the way, you're also now expected to give money, and it has to be this much, and it's like, give me a break. So,
no way, baby.
when we started the church, the way you became a member was you had your own coffee cup. Some of you have been here for quite some time. You remember you had your name with the coffee
I
cup.
still have your coffee
So
cup in the
there's still coffee cups in the back there. I used mine yesterday, actually. It said Phil. So, and that's how you became a member. So at the two old buildings, it was easy to do. Whenever we started talking about things and had to, quote, vote on stuff, everybody got their coffee cup and everyone was cool.
And you raise your coffee cup if you
Yep.
voted yes.
Yep. It's tough to do in this building just because kitchen's way back there and, we just...
Spills happen.
Spills happen, yeah. So,
Things
but
with the lids are much
you
better.
still don't have to do anything to become a member.
Show up. That's it.
Yep, yep.
Or don't show up.
There are literally thousands of people in the Tri-Cities that say they go to this church.
And they've been
I've
here once,
experienced it.
Maybe
yeah,
twice.
and they've been here once or twice.
And there's people like Heidi, who was mentioning the other day, she came once a year for about 3 years. She'd come, and, oh, this is not for me. She'd come back, oh, this is not for me. She came back a third time, oh, wow, this is for me. So, I don't know. Maybe we changed, maybe she changed.
We don't, because we've had people be gone for 10 years and come back. And I'm always curious, because I always ask them, is there a difference? Are we the same? What's going on? And they says, nope, it's pretty much the same. So I think that's great. I hope hopefully we progress somewhat, but I hope the messages are still the same and still hopefully, help people live a better life.
That's for sure. Energy circle.
Energy circle.
You want to talk about